and welcome to Monkhouse on Mondays. Now, this is the final one because lockdown in England, we're coming out of it but I've just heard from Robin that actually Northern Ireland are going back in for a period of time. Is that right, Robin?
Yeah, 1 a.m. this morning. 2 weeks of lockdown. Same as it was in March, except schools are open, so it's pretty severe. You know, no only essential shops only. And for the first time, we've got our pools and leisure centres closed in this second lockdown. First time everyone was closed, but our second lockdown, leisure centres, pools open. I'm kind of calling this a third lockdown because we were released last week, maybe only in Ireland. But yeah, everything's closed again now for 2 weeks, leading up to, what is it, the 17th or 18th, whatever it is.
Right. Okay. Well, it's a bit of a pain, but I'm sure you'll find a way through it. So just before we go, I just quickly went onto my MyZone app and I'm still a little naffed off. I think you're 1,200 MEPs ahead of me somehow, and I've exercised every day this month. So how are you doing that?
Oh, persistence. No, isn't it funny though? Yeah, it's. I think, you know, it's interesting for me, that journey. I think it was 2015 that MyZone gave out the belts with you guys, and I remember in that January thinking I have to do something. I was always fairly active. Had stopped playing rugby and stuff, and strapped this thing onto me. And that was the start of a relationship that's been very up and down for 5 years. You know, I'm not a Hall of Famer, but once I get the bug, I go for it. And yeah, so I've thankfully in the summer here, or just coming into the winter, I bought a smart trainer, and that just keeps me going. So I jump on the bike regularly, get up the mornings when I can. So yeah, it's fantastic. Although I would say to you, this little baby behind me here is my summer office, let's say. So I was, when you can't do a single MEP for 6 weeks, you know, I can see a few people getting a bit edgy. It's grand for swimming, but you know, not for MEPs.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and it is cold on the bike, isn't it? I went out for an hour and 40 yesterday, did 40k. I don't think my toes are warm yet. It was so cold.
Yeah, I was out last Monday, and you know, we're you know, one of the things I did during lockdown was cycle Mizzen to Malin. And that was to raise money for the local hospice. And again, it was one of those mad ideas. You know, I saw a thing on Netflix, Inspired to Ride, and I went, yeah, we can do that. You know, and it was glorious weather. Of course, the day the lockdown ended in Ireland, it just chucked it down for 5 days and we got drenched. But with my cycling buddy, Derek Moorhead, and I, so next year we're doing the Wild Atlantic Way, which is 1,500 miles. And what I didn't realize, it actually is 3 times as long as the Pacific Coast Highway. Yeah, you know, because it's all in and out. And so we're going to try that over 2 weeks, and wild bike pack, just stop where we can, chuck a tent up, see how it goes. So that's the next challenge.
Yeah, I did some work actually.
MEPs and that.
Yeah, I did some work with Fulcher Island on the Wild Atlantic Way. It was a really interesting piece of work. Yeah. But let's get on back on track, because the trouble with you and I,
back on track. Yeah, it is.
So just give me some background. What is it that pool safety systems do? Give us a bit of your story.
Okay, so well, my background is lifeguarding. I mean, I started as a lifeguard back in '83, I think it was. You know, came out of university and fell in love with lifeguarding, and that was it. I knew this is the career for me. And went through the whole thing of leisure management. You know, worked my way up through the ranks as you could in those days without a qualification to my name. Head of service, and 2008-9 is when I took a leap to the dark side and into looking at technology and swimming pools for lifeguards. I was involved in fatality way back in the day as a young lifeguard, and that sort of thing sticks with you. So that kind of got me into my way of thinking about how can we help lifeguards, and how can we make lifeguards not have to experience what we went through and what I went through and what the leisure centre went through. There's certainly no corporate manslaughter in those days, but that's what got me down this track. And then obviously technology's developed, and you know, I used to just look at stuff and you know, I want that for, you know, so it was kind of that whole thing. So when we started Poolview in 2012, it was still very, you know, there was Poseidon and that was it. Yeah. So part of the journey for me has been about developing, you know, helping develop systems, working with you know, Paul, who's my original business partner, and then Chris, who is our technical director, to develop how we can how we can make these systems and get them out there and make by attraction. It's always been by attraction, not promotion with us.
Yeah.
And you know, I always hated these, you know, there's an 8-year-old drowns in your pool, buy one of these and this won't happen. You know, that drives me nuts.
Yeah,
so
with you on that.
Yeah, so we've never really gone down that line. It's all about, you know, if you want to work with us, we want to work with you. Everybody we work with is a partner. They're not customers, or you know, it's a client. You know, so it's a good relationship, and it's just about organic growth. About, you know, 3 systems in year 1, 7 in year 2. To last year, we're doing 50. So it's just been that beautiful growth and tying in everyone as we go along, and bringing them on the journey with us, because it's all new. It's all
absolutely
new.
And it's fascinating. We got together years ago because I got something to work with on some goggles and things. But what I think you've done is got people to try and understand this isn't about taking the lifeguard off poolside.
Yeah.
There's a terminology that you use that I really like, and it's the blended lifeguarding bit. Just describe what that means. What's that line mean?
Yeah. Okay. Blended lifeguarding was, I first wrote a paragraph about it, that it was about how we married the best of technology with the best of lifeguard training. So, you know, our best RLSS lifeguards and our best technology that we have out there, how do we tie them together? Because exactly what you said, I used to hit brick walls. I don't want technology replacing my lifeguards. And that was never my intention, nor my journey. And thankfully, Andy Reid of Places for People Who You Know Well said to me one day, what you're talking about is blended lifeguarding. And I went, I'll have that. Because he put the top 2 words in that I needed to fill from below. Because it was always about, it was never one or the other. It was about both. And how we can take people on the journey, because people had the misconception that you chuck a bit of technology in and you forget about your pool. And I didn't want that. They didn't want that. So how can you encourage that? So that's where that simple phrase came from. And it's lovely to see it growing and developing and spreading, and people actually using it in day-to-day language now. So I think that's worked really well for us. Just to make people understand that this is not one or the other. It only works when you work together.
Absolutely. And I think for me, it reinforces the value that a good lifeguard brings to the role around, you know, hazard spotting early, identifying risk early, knowing those individuals that could be a problem, but giving them something through the camera systems and the movement detector systems that really helps them in the difficult places where there's glare, where there's a lot of people, you know, that type of stuff. I think it's just brilliant.
Well, it's some people said to me, you know, it's their best friend now, because it's really, it's one of the only tools that lifeguards have been given since, you know, we decided to go from wooden to plastic chairs on poolside, you know, stainless steel. You know, there's been nothing else. Yes, there's been, you know, throw buoys and all the rest of it, but there's absolutely nothing else has been given to lifeguards. So it's a reassurance bit of kit. It's not, and you know, when I do my staff training with them, I always say, look, this is not the be all and end all. You cannot walk away from this. You've got to work with this. You've got to use it, because as I've said to you, and you know, I've done some work with Joe Talbot at the RLSS, etc. People don't drown per se, help me anymore. It's all, you know, as we get older, you know, the population demographic gets older, people get into difficulties and end up on the bottom because of epileptic fits or heart attacks or shallow water blackout. It's all silent, it's all quiet, it's all at low bather loads, always. And poor lifeguards sitting there, you know, struggling to keep concentration, and somebody's in the bottom for 4 or 5 minutes. So this is the whole idea of what we're doing, is to help them identify that early identification of somebody in trouble, and let's get them before they hit the bottom. And that's our ethos.
Absolutely, and I'm fully supportive of it. And my guess is that a lot of people who are sat watching this right now has been in that chair with the yellow shirt, the red shorts, a whistle, and if they were lucky, a pool boy. So I think there's a lot of people that comment resonates with. And that for me is also quite an interesting link into where I want to go around what the future holds for us, because we're seeing a lot of people, you know, we've got potentially lifeguards who have not been on poolside for nearly 9 months. You know, their learning development, their CPD, their all of that stuff, plus organisations are cutting back wherever they can. You know, the future of wet side, sort of post-pandemic.
Well, there's a couple of things that have been very interesting during this shutdown, this of the pandemic, in that it has certainly given a lot of people time to consider, you know, how are we going to do this? Or, you know, oh yeah, I meant to talk to Poolview about drowning detection or whatever. So I've got a lot of that, you know, but you're quite right. We're kind of at, I don't like to say we're at crossroads, because I don't see it as a crossroads. It's kind of like a two-road choice at the minute. Where whilst in new builds, for example, we're on 24, 25, 26 new builds at the minute, which is phenomenal, which kind of shows you that we're coming from, you know, the underground movement, you know, nice to have, into this is essential. And this will be the seatbelt, the smoke detector, whatever, in 10 years. You know, I'll be gone, but somebody else will be doing it, or some other companies will be doing it. But we're at this business where what we did originally was very much about increasing the flexibility of working, of the work of the staff to make efficiency savings. You know, let's say between 7 and 3, we can get away with one lifeguard on poolside. I mean, get away is probably not the right word, but you know, I'm using that flippantly. But we can work with one lifeguard on poolside and technology, and that made the business case. 3 o'clock, school's off, everything back to normal, free for all, people everywhere. Well, technology is your crutch. It helps you. Whereas now we've got, what, you know, a max of 20, 25, 30 people swimming up and down. So whilst following the guidance HSG 179, it's absolutely okay to work with one lifeguard. This is actually the time whenever you're more likely to have an incident because of, you know, a health issue. So we've got the two people are saying, look, yeah, we'd love to work with you, but we can't make a business case. On the other side is people saying, look, we realize that this is a time where we can use technology really to help our lifeguards. Where this all pans out, I don't know. Will we ever get back to normal swimming, you know, in 2021 even? That still remains to be seen. But technology is certainly making a bigger impact in the way we manage in the UK. And interestingly, what we do with blended lifeguarding systems, whoever supplies them, and this came from Israel with me recently, was that they're actually tying us into their building management services. So it's now seen as important as air handling, as your chemical dosing, and all the ways that manage a building. They're saying, well, this sits in this box, this sits in there with that. So this should go into a building when we build it. And again, that's probably one of my little crusades, is I want to get this recognized, that when we come to a pool, that it's already got niches in it, that we're not going into a brand new pool that's just opening on Monday and drilling holes in it. You know, let's get them all geared up for future proofing, whoever does it. So that's my kind of crusade.
And it is interesting, isn't it? You know, we're sat here, you know, you said it earlier, 300 miles apart. It's almost as if we're across a table. We're getting used to watching screens. We're picking up body language from those screens. We're understanding each other. I know when you're bored, you know when I'm bored. Providing this type of product to lifeguards can only make it so much better for the job they have to do.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's been some good research from UK Active about lifeguards, but in my personal experience, you know, I've had one lifeguard in 10 years that said they didn't like it and they left. Now, whether that was because it's gathering so much evidence all the time and it puts pressure on the lifeguard, they felt. But in general, lifeguards don't want to be without it once they've had the opportunity to work with it. And even if it's just a screen, you know, size of us, that they can say, what's that fella doing? And they just look at the screen and they go, ah, right, he's okay. He's picking up a brick or whatever he's doing. It's about that reassurance, and it's not about that double guessing anymore. You can be very quickly sure of what's going on, and that's why it's all built into part of the 10-20, that it's part of their role. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Robin, I've actually amazed myself, because I had to stop you. I think that's come to a really natural conclusion. Thank you so much for your time. I'm really sorry you guys are going into lockdown for 2 weeks. but
Yeah,
just
well,
turn around and face that boat, and
that's the motivation wall. That's the motivation wall.
Perfect. Robin, thank you so much for your time. Really good to speak to you.
Yeah, and Merry Christmas.